Hi, welcome today to my small review of the Quiet Carry Drift. Righto, so the Quiet Carry Drift. I'm going to keep this one short-ish. I've carried this for a while now, and this does some things in the best of ways. It's a market leader in a couple of aspects, it really is, or at least up there with the other market leaders. However, it isn't a perfect knife. So, going through what it is, it's a everyday carry pure form knife, so it's not really for amping up to bigger tasks. It's just for taking around with you in your day-to-day life and opening things and cutting the odd sandwich in half and all that sort of stuff, your basic everyday jobs. This is excelling in two aspects, in my opinion. It's got an extremely thin blade that's ground extremely well, and it has the probably best blade steel you can get on the market at the moment. Vanax, in my testing, is basically stain-proof and outcuts even some of the market-leading steels like M390 to a reasonably, meaningful margin. It isn't going to cut as well as MaxMed or anything like that, but for a steel that basically won't rust, it's got an exceptional balance. So let's talk more about this blade. When it is open and in your hand and cutting, there is little you can really dislike about the Quiet Carry Drift, because as a cutting tool, or as a slicing tool for everyday jobs. So, there's lots of different kinds of cutting tools. An axe is a cutting tool. Even like being a bit more, staying in the same field. This Buck 110, 20 CV, this is a cutting tool as well, but there's sort of four different jobs. This is for things that you could probably upscale just a bit and maybe take this out and use it for some bushcraft or whatever. And obviously hunting jobs and things like that. This, for the cutting tool it's trying to be, is almost peerless when it is open and in your hand. So the thin grind of the blade, the stock is thin for a start, and then it has a very, very tall flat grind starting basically from this shoulder here, which is still wider than most blades even when you start from this flat point here. So behind the edges is incredibly thin, and that paired with this steel, which cuts for a good long time, regardless of how you put it, makes for an excellently performing knife blade. So once it is open and in your hand, the blade plus the pretty decent, generic, or not generic's probably a bad word for it, but basic ergonomics. There's a bit of guidance here for your index finger, but that's about it. Make it a bit of a joy to use. So you can choke up on it, you can choke back on it. Both of these positions are fine. I like how they've gone and done a rampless sort of spine to handle connection there, which is really good. Some people really don't prefer the sort of paramilitary school of thought where your finger's resting on something. I don't mind either way, but definitely an ergonomic win as well. For a thin little knife, doing like long-term repetitive cutting with it, like any or most folding knives, does eventually smart just a tad. So when I do my rope cut test with this blade, for example, it's not like using a really comfortable fixed blade or anything like that, of course not. But for your everyday jobs, as an opened knife and using, just for whatever you're cutting, it's excellent. It's up there with things like the TRM Atom, which is another one of the great pocket knives at the moment. Really, really well done for an opened tool. However, the main thing about this knife, and it's something that a lot of people have already talked about, that's why I'm keeping this review short. I don't think I've got too much more to add on this, but getting the knife from closed to open isn't as nice as it should be for a $325 knife. So the triangular-ish, triangle/oval sort of opening hole isn't particularly a joy. You can do it without really fussing too much. You don't want to be like one of those as seen on TV ads.
Does this ever happen to you? Pocket knife.
But it is definitely not particularly enjoyable. You have to kind of wedge your thumb in there just a little bit. They do, they've obviously carved this out a little tiny bit to make it a bit better, but it is a little bit slow. It's a little bit odd on your thumb, your thumb tip. It twists and rotates against a flat edge, which isn't great, and this is, if this knife wasn't $325, I wouldn't be nitpicking this sort of stuff at all, but is what it is. And then secondly, the detent. So you can open the knife by giving it a bit of wrist downwards. And to me, whilst the pivot is tight and it isn't doing anything wrong, the pivots can loosen. and they can loosen quite suddenly in knives. I think we've all had a knife that's all of a sudden been a little bit floppier than it usually is, and this one here is just kind of waiting for that to happen and open in your pocket. So I don't know, for those two things I feel like the price point is demanding mechanical perfection, and you don't get that on this knife. The pocket clip I really like. I'm just looking at it now and remembering. The pocket clip is fine. It's like a Spyderco quality wire clip, definitely up there with the ease of use of the Spidey Chef wire clip for sure. But another thing is, these screws, they are soft. I can see where Nick Shabazz has sent me this one to review and test. I can see where he's taken it apart and what the Torx driver has done. And I know Nick uses the right kind of Torx, and I know he knows how to disassemble and disassemble a knife. So the fact that these are all a bit sort of scabby around the Torx heads, or the Torx tips, is a little bit of a worry, to be honest. So obviously the hardware is a little bit on the soft side as well. So those three things, the detent, the less than enjoyable action, and the hardware not particularly loving being manipulated, obviously, do cause me hesitation to say go and spend $325 on this knife. Even though Vanax, I know, is probably the most expensive steel, or one of the most expensive steels to currently put in a larger production knife. And I know the heat treatment even of Vanax, to get it over 60 you need to do a cryo treatment, and this is 260, and I was talking to the Quiet Carry rep. They were saying that black version is actually a little bit harder as well for some reason. Maybe it's how they affixed the black coating to it, I have no idea, but according to them, this is 60 Rockwell and the black one is 60.5. So I don't know, I'll leave that with you to wonder about, but that's what I've been told. So I know to do that is expensive, and I know that you're paying really for a piece of one of the most advanced steels at the moment, but as a complete package, it doesn't perform like a $325 knife should, or even a $350 knife if you get the blacked out version, I believe. So that's where I'm going to leave this one. Look, in terms of like actually seeing how the knife works, I suggest you just watch Nick's disassembly video for seeing like what's inside it, how it goes. Those are my impressions as a user. Not as I haven't particularly gone over this one with a fine-tooth comb and taken it apart myself, because frankly that gave me a bit of hesitation to do so. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. It's a great cutting tool once it's open and in your hand, but I think for $325, which is getting towards Sebenza territory, and Sebenzas, say what you will about the steel and everything, and about perhaps the generic nature of them nowadays, they work really well. They open in their own way, and they close and they lock up, and they don't have detent issues or anything like that. So it's approaching that price of a small Seb, and while the steel is yards ahead of it, I think the rest of the package is a little bit underdeveloped. Anyway, here's some shots of it next to some other knives, so you get a bit of an idea about its size and whatnot, and I'll finish with a specs package. And I hope this has been of some help for you if you want to know whether to get this blade here. As I said, great in hand, great to use, amazing blade, good ergos, but just in terms of the really fussy stuff that I think you're entitled to look for when you're paying this much money, just falling a little bit short. Anyway guys, that's my review. See you in the next one. Goodbye.